When I have collection of simple variables, then it is termed as structure. All the variables or data members are called member of the structure. So all these are treated as member of the structure. When I encounter struct keyword, that indicates that it's the definition of structure. Hello to all, a warm welcome to my new session on programming in C, and the topic name here is structure. So dear student, this is also an example for user defined data type. I'm Revati from the Department of Computer Science, Vidhyaashram, First Grade College, Temple of Excellence, MYSURU. Before going to start my today's session, let's recall the topics which I have discussed in my previous session. So dear student, I have started with types of argument. In that, I have explained the 4 different types of arguments, that is actual argument, formal argument, local variable as well as global variable. Along with that, I have covered types of function, that is nothing but the 4 different types of function. But in my today's session, I'm going to deal with the structure. So here, structure is also an example for user defined data type. So here at the beginning, I'm going to have introduction about structure. Along with that, how to define a structure, how to declare a structure. Along with that, how to access the elements of a structure. These are the topics I'm going to deal in my today's session. So dear student, please make a point because it is very, very important from the examination point of view. So dear student, let's see the introduction about structure. Before going to start structure, let me to tell me what is data type. So dear student, consider my name as well as age. I repeat, I'm going to consider age. At the same time, I'm going to consider the name. Now, age is nothing but number. Here, name is nothing but text or character. Okay. So, what is data type here? I require data type to identify particular type of data. So here I have 2 data, name as well as age. I want to identify the particular type of data. So which type of data here it is? Number. And if I consider name, it's of type text. There is nothing but character. To identify particular type of data, I require data type. And if I consider data type, I'm going to have user defined data type as well as predefined or built-in data type. And if I consider built-in data type, I'm going to have integer, float, character as well as double. But if I consider user defined data type, as the name itself indicates that user can able to create their own data type, and that is known as user defined data type. Here, structure falls under user defined data type. So what is structure then? It's nothing but the example for user defined data type, and it is nothing but a collection of simple variables. When I have collection of simple variables, then it is termed as structure. So the variables in a structure can be same or different. That means whatever the variables I'm going to use in my structure, it may be same type or it may be different type. Example I can able to use here is integer data type, floating point data type, or character, string, double, long int, etc. And the data item, that means the data item which is present in the structure is called member of the structure. That means whatever the variables or whatever the data items I'm going to use in my structure is called as member of the structure. Anyway, dear student, let's see how to define a structure and what are the rules I need to follow while defining structure. So, dear student, to define user defined data type structure, I want to use struct keyword. How I'm going to define the structure here? With the help of struct keyword, and I want to specify the structure name. So how I'm going to start? With the help of struct keyword, and I'm going to specify the structure name, and I'm going to use the curly brace. Within the curly brace, I'm going to define the variables. Now, all the variables or data members are called member of the structure. So, all these are treated as member of the structure. So, the process of defining a structure includes giving the name. So, I want to give the name to the structure, and that is called tag. So, here structure name itself referred as tag and tells the compiler the name as well as data type. That means the job of the structure is to inform the compiler about the name of the structure as well as different data types. So, different data members which is present in that structure. Now, let me to write one simple example here. Think that I'm going to create student structure. That means the name of the structure here is student. So, what I want to do here at the beginning, I want to write the struct keyword. So, I'm going to write the struct keyword and I'm going to specify the structure name, that is nothing but student. So here the student is nothing but the tag. Inside that I'm going to define name. So it's of type character. Now I'm going to define roll number, and it's of type integer, and I'm going to consider integer mark 1 and mark 2 and mark 3. That means I'm going to consider 3 subject mark, and I'm going to close the structure. Now, dear student, when I define the structure, now the compiler is responsible for allocating the memory for this structure. And what is the name of the structure? That is nothing but student. And this is the memory allocation. Now, when the compiler encounters name, and it's going to allocate 20 byte of memory location for this variable name, because the data type here is character and it is capable to hold only 1 byte at a time. So 1 into 20 byte of memory is reserved for this name. Now I'm going to have integer roll number. Now What is the size of integer? It is 2 byte. Okay, 2 byte is reserved for roll number. And if I consider third variable declaration, that is, I'm going to have mark 1, mark 2 and mark 3. And what is the type? It is integer. Integer capable to hold 2 byte. 2 into 3, 6. So 6 byte of memory is reserved for M1, M2 and M3. Now, dear student, tell me what is the memory required by this structure, student. So here, total 28 byte of memory is reserved for this structure, student. That means 20 plus 2, it is 22. 22 plus 6, it is 28. So total 28 bytes of memory is reserved for this structure, student. Now, dear student, the keyword struct introduces the structure definition. When I encounter struct keyword, that indicates that it's the definition of structure. The declaration of structure members are enclosed in a brace. That means whatever the data members I'm going to get, that is written within the curly brace. And I can able to create structure member itself. That means I want to create the structure member and it's called template. Because if I want to access data members which is stored in the structure, I require structure variable that is known as templates and a semicolon followed by the closing brace. To indicate this is end of the structure, I want to place the semicolon at the end of the structure. Now, I'm going to have the example here. So here I have struct keyword and employee is nothing but my structure name and I'm going to have their employee ID that's of type integer and employee name it's of type character, designation once again it's of type character and salary it's of type float. Now the compiler is responsible for allocating the memory for this structure that is employee. And what is the memory allocation here? That is integer is capable to hold 2 byte and here it is character so it is 15 byte. Here it is character once again 10 byte and here it is floating. What is the size of the float here? That is nothing but 4 byte. So 4. Now tell me what is the memory allocation? That is 15 plus 10, it is 25. 25 plus 4, it is 29. 29 plus 2, it is 31. So total 31 bytes of memory is reserved for this structure employee. Now, how to declare a structure or defining a structure variable? That means how can I declare or define a structure variable? So, dear student, a structure can be declared. That is nothing but structure variable can be declared. As the same way, we are going to declare built-in data types. That means first I want to write the structure name. Along with that, I want to write the variable. So here, what is the structure name? That is student. And I'm going to define the variable that is old student as well as new student. Now, dear student, if I consider this example, think that if I want to create structure variable, how I'm going to create? Here itself I can able to create. How? See here, student. Okay, I just want to remove this semicolon and write EMP and write the semicolon. That means here itself I'm going to create the structure variable. With the help of this variable and with the help of dot operator, I can able to access all the members of this structure. So dear student, how to access the elements of a structure? How can I? With the help of dot operator. So what I want to do? I want to write the structure variable. Along with that, I want to write the member variable. So dear student, in structure, if I want to access any members which is present in the structure with the help of dot operators as well as structure variable, I can able to access structure member. Now dear student, let me to consider the example here. Okay, this is the example for student. So dear student, here think that I'm going to create structure. I'm going to create structure student. In that, I'm going to have character, name, then integer, roll number. So I'll take only two fields, name and roll number. Now, dear student, listen here. I can able to create structure variables in two ways. One is here itself I can able to create the structure variable, or I can able to create the structure variable in my main program. How? That is, first I want to write the keyword struct. Then I want to specify the structure name student and specify the variable name stud and semicolon. Okay, this is also valid. And where I'm going to create the structure variable, this is in my main program. So inside the main program, I'm going to create the structure variable. Another method, while declaring structure itself, I can able to create the variable. So both the way I can able to create structure variable. Now, if I want to access the member of the structure, how can I access? With the help of dot operator. That is, I'm going to write the example here. What is my structure variable? That is stud. Then I'm going to use dot operator and I'm going to use name. Okay, now stud dot, I'm going to use roll number. Okay, this is the way I can able to access the data members of a structure. Now, dear student, let me to consider how to initialize a structure. How to initialize a structure? This is the way I can able to initialize a structure. Now, let me to consider the previous example, that is, I'll consider student structure itself. For example, I'll write student. Okay, then it is a structure, right? So I'll start with the struct keyword, then character, name of 20, then integer, roll number. Okay, and where I'm going to initialize the structure in my main program. So I'll start with the main program. Okay, I have main program. Now I want to create the structure variable. For that, what I will do? Struct Okay, I'll start with the struct, then student, it's my structure name. Okay, then I'll write stud equal to, and I'll start assigning the value. So what is my first field? It is name. So I'll write Revati. Okay, then comma. What is my next field? It is roll number. It's of type integer. So I'll write 101, and I'm going to close the curly brace, and at the end I'm going to write the semicolon. This is the way I can able to initialize a structure. So both the things are same. So here if I consider employee, okay, employee is nothing but my structure name, and I want to write struct employee, then employee 1. Okay, then I'm going to initialize the values. So this is my employee number, employee name, designation, and salary. This is the way I can able to initialize a structure. So dear student, moving further, I'm going to have nested structure. So what is this nested structure? That is structure within structure. What is the meaning? That means I want to define the member of another structure. That means I'm going to define one structure in the member of another structure. Such structures are known as nested structure. So a structure can be defined as a member of another structure. Such structures where one structure is embedded with another structure. So I'm going to embed one structure in another structure is called nested structure. So I'm going to embed one structure in another structure is called nested structure. Now let me to consider the example here. See, I'm going to create this structure. So what is the structure name? That is distance, and it's going to include two data members, feet and inch. Okay, now I want to create nested structure. That means I'm going to embed my first structure in my second structure. So here, this is my second structure. What is my structure name? Room. See here, what is the data type here? I'm going to use structure. So structure name is distance. Here my data type is distance. That means my data type is my structure. So I'm going to embed one structure in another structure is known as nested structure. So distance length, distance breadth. Okay, this kind of structure is known as nested structure. Then I can able to have array of structure. So an array of structure is an array in which each element of structure is a structure. That means I can able to create array of structure. So what is that array of structure? In each array, I'm going to have the structure that is known as array of structure. For example, think that I want to create array of structure. So this is the example. That means I'm going to create array of structure. That means I'm going to hold 10 records, and each record contains the informations like register number, name of the student, combination along with that fees. Okay. So when I want to hold only one student information, then I can go with this structure variable. But when I want to maintain or hold more than two student information, in that time it's better to go with the array of structure. So I'm going to create array of structure, and each structure holds particular record or particular student information. And this kind of declaration is known as array of structure. So dear student, I'm going to use the keyword struct. Along with that, I'm going to specify the structure name and what are the fields I'm going to have here. That is register number, name, combination as well as fees, and I'm going to create array of structure. When I have only structure variable, then it is only S. But here I'm going to create array of structure. For that, I'm going to specify the size. That means this structure variable capable to store 10 different student information. So this is the way I can able to create array of structure. So dear student, in my today's session, I started with what is structure. Along with that, I have discussed how to define a structure, how to initialize a structure, and how to access a structure. Along with that, I have discussed how to define array of structure and nested structure. In my next session, I'm going to deal with union. Anyway, dear students, let's meet in the next session with new chapter called union. Until that, keep watching and keep learning. Thank you.